and get right into the rest of the show, everybody, because we got more Academy action right around the corner. Concept, though, that was fun. Yeah, so I wanted to get some insight into that Wukong because we all kind of took a pause when we noticed the Essence Reaver, but I'm happy
I
at
did
least...
literally mid-cast.
You literally did mid-cast, but I'm happy that he's been thinking about it outside of game as well. It wasn't just a, hey, let's try this out.
I've given a shout out to this before, but it is in fact historically been the highest win rate first item on Wukong in a lot of matchups.
Interesting.
In solo queue. Now, of course, League of Legends in solo queue and professional play is very different. But I like the fact that he was just saying, like, we were so far ahead, we can just kind of do whatever we want. And he got a little bit punished for a bit of his cubers, but still, great performance from Concept overall. He really showed that he was the better top laner today.
Absolutely. I think he had a great performance overall. But that was last series. Now we got to bring our attention to the future. But before we get into the final series of the day, we also want to recap some of the fun stats that have been going around so far in the series with our Samsung SSD Fast 5, where we keep track of some of the most impressive timers in all of League of Legends Academy right now. And you know the drill, guys. I'm going to give it to each of you. What is jumping out to you first? Rafa, you're up on the hot seat. What's the most impressive stat that you're seeing right now?
Triple, bro. Fastest mythic item at 8 minutes and 21 seconds? Like, what?
That's a minute 27 ahead of the next person, who is like over half a minute ahead of the person before them. And this is 2 minutes faster than Darkwings.
Yeah, and big note, I'm pretty sure that the pretty stats are inflated because he's played things like Ivern and Zillion. So he's probably had like a support item in one of those slots. But Triple, he's been spamming pretty much Ahri most of the time.
I believe he's played 5 Ahri games out of the 6 that he's played already. So yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of Ahri games. That's a very fast mythic. Joshi, is it the same one or is anything else jumping out to you?
Well, the other one I gotta look at is, remember when XU started 5-0 on Lee Sin and had his own mythic by around 8 minutes? He is the 3rd fastest to level 6. Behind Kenvi and Malice, and it just kind of goes to show, you know, the kind of playstyle that both these players have. Malice just hardcore farming, and Kenvi also all looking for a lot of opportunities to pop off. Can just be really, really impactful if you are able to execute on whatever strategy it is that you're trying to go for.
I'm not going to lie, and no flame at all towards Malice, but I'm surprised it's not faster, considering the play style and how often he just hard clears like multiple times.
Camps take so long to respawn, Kangas. There's a, you know, there is a theoretical maximum.
Fine, understandable. As of course, not a jungler player myself, I don't understand these big brain concepts. But let's bring our attention now to our next series of the day, because this one is still CLG Academy, still champions currently in first place for the regular season standings, but can they hold on to it after yesterday dropping a game to Immortals? Now they're up against TSM Academy, who are currently last place in the standings. So if you're a CLG fan, you should feel comfortable. If you're a TSM fan, you should be giving them all of your energy right now, because this is looking like the hardest boss of them all. But I want to
Spirit Bomb ready.
Get the Spirit Bomb, charge it up, everybody. And I want to start with that conversation on the TSM side.
Yep.
Let's look at this as a puzzle, Joshi. How do we solve it?
Well, let's start off by saying I always feel like CLG TSM is kind of like the telecom wars, where it doesn't matter if KT or SKT are having a rough season, it is always going to be a banger series no matter what. But there's a couple things going in favor of TSM Academy that we will have to chart a little bit. Is one, Shen Yi coming down from LCS to join them on the Academy roster, and he's been looking rather strong so far. And the other thing is that they have had their coach Peter Jong coming down in order to help out once again, in order to get them to understand how these early games go. And it was definitely TSM who was saying, yeah, once you play at this level, you really need to spend more time thinking about what your early games are going to be like. And that's something that CLG has typically done. And hopefully Peter can help them solve that issue.
They also took a game off 100 Thieves yesterday, which that's pretty damn impressive. So hopefully that gives them some confidence going into the CLG matchup now.
And I got a chance to chat with Viper after that game, after that victory. 1-1 on the series, but they still got a game off of 100 Thieves. And he was crediting that the team is starting to gel together a little bit more. And Shen Yi in particular actually has been a decent shot caller for them. He was citing that, he's very communicative. He has a strong understanding and opinion of what they should be doing at certain stages of the game. So it's cool that we already saw that in that game 2. Game 1 was a little rough, but game 2, they were able to find a couple of really clutch engages with Shenny on the Rel, which is so funny to me because it's like Gearside and Shenny's champ pools are so close that Instinct's probably sitting here like, oh, this is great. I don't even have to like learn new lane matchups or partners to play with. But now let's take a look at CLG Academy on the opposite side of the rift. An intro and our thoughts as to why they are still #1 team currently. But after yesterday's performance, maybe not definitively the best team in Academy. Joshi, I'm going to give this one to you to intro us in.
Well, CLG's early games are ridiculous, right? The fact that they are so able to create early game leads and play off of them based on the way that Rosethorn paths around the map in an adaptable fashion, it means that they are almost always going to be going into the rest of the game with a significant gold lead. And on top of that, the fact that Triple and Dokla, two of the most dominant solo laners we have in the entire league, just gives them a recipe for success every single time that they play. And as long as they're all playing a good game and they're just playing with their wits about them, it's hard to find another team that's going to hold a candle to this team.
If you can't beat them in the early game, it is very hard to hold out against their push. And even if you do beat them in the early game, this is something Cubby's been saying a lot, they will just hard flip at an objective. And oftentimes they win those anyway. So it's really tough. And I was kind of teasing, maybe CLG aren't the definitively best team right now in the league, but I still think that with Triple, they actually look the best. They played with 3 different mid laners. They played with Palafox, they played with Demonte, and now Triple in, who is the final mid laner for the Academy roster. And I still think that they are a tough opponent to beat. But let's look at some of the stats to defend that mid game, or rather that early game focus from them that you're talking about, Joshi, because this is where TSM need to be looking at. If you're TSM Academy, if you're the coaching staff, if you're the players, you need to look at these numbers and realize we can't let this happen, guys. All right. if this happens, like CLG has been doing against everybody else, Rafa, then we don't see TSM necessarily get to those stages where they look better, which is in the mid-game team fights.
Yeah, I mean, goal difference at 8 minutes, almost 1,000. Goal difference at 14 minutes, pretty much over 2,000. And then we have first blood percentage, which is 88.9%, and first turret, 85%. So CLG are such a proactive team that they are the ones always deciding what is going to be happening in the game before any of the other teams, for the most part, get a chance to figure out a game plan of what they want to do, and always have to be on the back foot, reacting to everything that CLG impose with their will.
Yeah, and I feel a huge part of this comes from the fact that all of their players are relatively experienced, right? I feel like Breezy is probably the newest player on this roster. Maybe Rosethorn has a claim to that as well, but the fact that they are already such huge standouts from their time in amateur moving into academy means that they have to spend less time focusing on, their individual lane matchups and understanding how to do the critical thinking in order to find your own advantages. And they can skip directly to the next step, which is making plans and executing on them. And I mean, as we've already looked at, Rosethorn has been a master at that so far this season.
So we expect CLG Academy to still look dominant in the early game, but TSM, if they can hold the line, TSM.
Hold the line.
Hold strong. This is Battle of Helm's Deep, baby. All you got to do is wait for the Rohirrim to show up and save you. And that, of course, is their mid to late game team fighting, where Shenny's shot calling, Instinct's ability to pilot late game carries like the Jinx and Aphelios. Maybe you can get across that finish line. But of course, that is to say, still, we do have an underdog and a favorite going into this match, which makes it exciting for me. But I'm going to pass it over to the two of you to get us into our final series of the day. Rafa, take it away.
Bye, Kangas.
Goodbye, Steve. I really do want to advocate for getting Kangas to cast one of these last games. Maybe we can push for it towards the Super Week of the last part of the season. We'll have to
see what we can do. Maybe you could host.
No, you don't want that. Kangas is significantly a better host than I am, and he's just as good of a play-by-play. So there's no way that we could make a swap work out. It would just be like, easy. All right, you're coming in, I'm going out earlier for the day.
Look, we could definitely let me host, and I'll give them the howdly doodlies once again.
Oh, God.
Bit of a throwback, right? But we are getting into pick and ban right now between CLG and TSM. And CLG on the blue side, it's such a natural advantage because on 12.3, you still get 2 free bans from anybody on the red team.
Zeri, Caitlyn, and...
I mean, it's usually Gwen. Most teams will ban Caitlyn, Zeri, Gwen. But, Thresh is another ban that we see sometimes. Xin Zhao. Jinx, Aphelios if you don't like one side of that matchup. But typically, like most teams, just handshakes. Like, yeah, we'll get Jinx, you get Aphelios, it's a good time. And what do you know? TSM sticking with the same kind of plays that we've been going with for quite a while. Whereas CLG is just like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna ban out things that I think your team is pretty good at. And apparently that is Ryze, Lee Sin, and the Akali getting banned out from TSM. And so CLG, we'll see what it is that they first pick. I'm going to go with Jinx Aphelios. The other one takes the other one. Not a lot of surprises. What do you know? Crazy. He's a prophet.
Wow, Josh, you're so smart. Poggers.
What? Watch this Aphelios pick up for Instinct.
Dude, what if they pull a fast one on us and they go Jhin instead?
I would be a bit surprised.
It's probably not going to be
But, you know, it could happen. So, I feel like in chess, okay.
Whoa!
Oh, no Aphelios!
Whoa!
Oh my god! Already we're seeing the karma coming right out, which is something that was very popular a couple patches ago, but has kind of fallen to the wayside quite a bit because of the overemphasis that we've been seeing on these actual engaged support picks. And now, with the Xin Zhao coming through, it is very likely to get matched here by Rosethorn's Rek'Sai, something he's having a lot of success with, and his ability to find unusual ganking paths with this champion is second to none. As soon as I say that, he goes with something a little bit different, but can still perform a lot of the same different routes that all the junglers just can't match.
Imagine by showing the karma early, CLG, they may not want to go to the Thresh and pick something that can match the range for range advantage that TSM are looking for. And it might be just a little bit of a sustained battle. Thanks to Tom Kench with the Tongue Lash, you can keep yourself somewhat topped off in this lane. But I imagine whenever you pick a Karma for yourself in the bottom lane, it's usually paired with an Ezreal so that the Karma can not only have double poke advantage with the Mystic shots, but then you can also roam out of lane freely and leave the Ezreal to their own devices.
Yeah. Well, we are also going to have to see triple on another champion, it appears, right? Because Ahri is going to get taken up by TSM, and we were talking 5 out of 6 of his games thus far have been on the Ahri. So I'm trying to remember what the last one was on, because, you know, he's played so much of this champion, it's kind of hard to imagine something else coming through. Oh, he has played some Victor and some Corki up against Immortals yesterday.
Oh.
It says today on the wiki, but it was yesterday.
I wonder if CLG were sniffing out a Vayne coming in. I know that most of the time we've actually associated that with Viper because he's the one that pulls out a crazy range top counter lane counter pick for himself against Dokla, but I mean, would it have been crazy to see Instinct on that?
That would have been pretty hype. Not sure if it's the kind of thing that we are likely to see, but it does do pretty well into the Tahm Kench and the Jarvan. The problem is up against Jinx, you just get outranged really, really heavily, and that can be a bit of an issue later on. But TSM, now that they've already gotten a very different style of draft coming through and pushing triple off of the Ahri, there's a lot of tools available, and okay, it took a little while, but we are still going to end up, we are transposing in chess terms to a more traditional draft in a lot of ways. And the only question left is, what is Viper going to be playing into Dokla? One of the few top laners that I think can actually hold a candle to Dokla right now, because, I mean, Dokla, to be nice about it, is dunking on people this season.
He's also one of the few top laners where I'm okay with seeing a Renekton from, because Dokla actually just destroys people in lane with this champion. Ooh. Whether or not he has facilitation from Rosethorn or anyone else from CLG giving him extra resources, if you give him a good of enough matchup with the Crocodile and you leave him on an island, he'll usually just bully them straight out of the game.
Win. Yeah. And there you go. Crocodilian's got teeth, boy. We'll see what it is that Viper wants to play into it. It is not ridiculous that this Karma could be going over towards Renekton, but ever since they pulled out the ability to reduce your Mantra cooldown with auto attacks, it has become less and less popular. But hey, what do you know? It is in fact going to be the Karma top going into the Renekton, and Shen Yi going to be playing the Rel, just as we were talking about previously. And Rel actually really, really good into Tahm Kench.
Yeah.
The fact that you can just pop the gray skin shield with your Q means that it is incredibly difficult for Breezy to actually keep himself alive in these extended
I
fights.
forgot that Rel's Q is a shield breaker in the kit. And so TSM, and you can see that a little bit of this draft was a bait to pull out the Tahm Kench, knowing that by first picking the Karma, you incentivize the Tahm Kench pick over a traditional Thresh pick that we would have seen paired with this Jinx. But now, having committed the full turnaround and then sending the Karma towards the top side of the map as an answer to what, to be honest, is not, far from the normal, a Renekton pick for Dokla in the top lane. Oh no, it's actually Smite top Karma. Oh, we're getting that
Viper?
game.
Of all people,
We're
it's going to be
getting
playing
that kinda
Smite top?
game.
Okay, well, this is one way to upset the expected early games coming out from CLG, is if you just don't play the same kind of early game as your opponents. I was not expecting, of all people, Viper would be playing this Karma top lane, because he has been such a pivotal part of trying to win the lane, but this is a huge concession going up against CLG, and we're going to talk a lot about the theory as the game continues to go on, because TSM are now looking to leverage the fact that they have Viper elsewhere on the map in order to make Rosethorn's life really miserable. And the typical way that you try and play around this is, if you know it's coming, you play a split pusher, something that scales really well. But I got news, Renekton doesn't really do that. So they're going to have to try and find a very different way in order for CLG to win, and it might just be running over the early game anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, Renekton's okay, right? But he doesn't naturally build any Sheen items, so he can't get effective turret destruction damage in his build path. I mean, at the very most, you can probably build a Blade of the Ruined King, which is a pretty solid item for Renekton these days to get more attack speed so you can shred through turrets, but you're completely right. It's nothing compared to the likes of a Jax or a Fiora or even a Tryndamere, for example, as well. And considering that Viper is the person that is we associated with having one of the most dominant top lane performances from 2021 during his time on No Org and then over on Immortals Academy during the summer split, playing a very consistent style with Anda of just completely having full control over the top side of the map. This is so bizarre. But it goes to show that TSM, they're in a spot where they're saying, listen, we have to try something different, and we have to flip the script.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to give you a bit of a stat to start off the game with, Mark. Dokla in the top lane currently averages at 8 minutes a 473 gold lead up against all other top laners. The second highest in the entire league is Bradley at 108. Right? This guy is already nearly 400 higher gold than the next highest person in the entire league. And now that he's going to be playing up against Roaming Viper, his stats are just going to be absolutely disgustingly high.
What's also disgusting is that Prismal and Breezy can't actually step up and correct the current freeze that has been set up by TSM because of this fear of both Hyper and Viper just swinging on both. And right now, this is absolutely abysmal for Prismal and Breezy. They can't step up safely.
They made the mistake of pushing the first wave, right? That's what you got to do. You got to be willing to take things back. You got to be willing to slow things down. And Prismal and Breezy are going to need a little bit of help. So if Viper ever shows elsewhere on the map, that's going to be an opportunity for Rosethorn to come down and try and have try and actually crash this wave. But Prismal and Breezy, as we said, in a very tough spot because they're going to be level 1 for a while as they get zoned off of experience. But as soon as Viper shows, expect Rosethorn to come
And one of the things that we talked about before is that TSM, yes, Viper has been, a huge win oh, they're just going to go engage onto Prismal. He's still level 1, but he flashes right in time, and Rosethorn is level 3. He's going to try to turn things around. Instinct flashing away in time, and now Hyper can make the counter gank possible. Rosethorn forced to flash. Hyper flashing follow-up. 3 talent strike. 1 more auto attack can connect, and first blood goes over to TSM. As we see a bit of a mid-lane duel between Triple and Takeover. The passive gets procced. Takeover can't find the finishing blow, but it does force Triple into a bad spot.
Okay, this is an early game lead already coming out from TSM. Dokla not able to build enough of a lead immediately off the bat because Viper has gone back up towards the top side. But CLG, getting a little bit of damage here onto Shen Yi shouldn't mean a whole lot. But the one thing that was going in favor of CLG for a little while was at least the freeze had been broken, but because of this wave getting under, it's just going to go back to a position of neutrality and maybe even pushing back towards the members of TSM. So the problems on the bottom side of the map have not stopped. 500 gold already in favor of Instinct at only the 4-minute mark. That's way larger than what Dokla already has.
And it's a 2-level difference as well between Instinct and Prismal because he was zoned off every single creep. I mean, he managed to shrink out maybe a couple, but he's still far behind in terms of overall experience. And so this will give a large opportunity for TSM to come back to this bottom side and punish because there's no reason at all to play towards the top side of the map if you have a Smite support in Viper. You are playing to snowball and accelerate Instinct in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very focused on actually getting Instinct ahead at this point because he's going to be the one who is supposed to be ahead in gold. He's going to be the one that is supposed to be ahead in levels in these kind of games. And the thing is, Dokla going up against Viper, like, I don't even know if Viper needed to play this roaming Smite Karma, right? Like, this is not a bad matchup for Karma in the first place. So it's going to be a position where, yes, Dokla is going to be really, really far ahead, and the stats are going to look absolutely ridiculous after this game is over. But just because you are getting a lead in the top lane does not mean that you're going to be winning the rest of the game. And I feel like Dokla is probably a little bit sad, right? One of my favorite pieces of Trash Talk was, you know, I prefer playing in Champions Queue where I get to play against good top laners. And now he's just like, well, I don't even get to play against a top laner at all.
It's one of those games now Dokla has to find ways to impact the game, given that he's going to have a natural advantage. Takeover, currently fighting in a 1v2 against Breezy and Triple, managing to still navigate safely out of what could have been a sticky predicament, but Breezy is just here to help Triple fight back against the wave, and TSM have this priority from the bottom side of the map to take the first dragon of the game.
Yeah. Would you call it a predicament?
You know what? Sure. I'll let you make up that word, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a sticky predicament. But as the game is going to be continuing down here, Viper and Hyper are looking to go for this 4-man potential dive, but Rosor's around the corner. Prismal's still, okay, he gets level 3 now.
And Rosorn is waiting. As soon as they commit, now he pops over the blast cone. They still have no idea, but they're committed to Prismal. He has no summoners from before, but Hyper will not be able to get out. Beautifully timed Abyssal dive from Breezy locks him down, and Dokla is the one that receives the kill as he teleports to the bottom side of the map.
It's really good that Dokla gets this kill because this is not considered the way to typically play against these kind of compositions, right? The way you normally play is you get these big leads on the other side of the map and you don't contest the fact that you have extra members down here. But the fact that Dokla gets the kill means that it ends up being worthwhile because he would have gotten about the same amount of money on the other side of the map as he did down here with this teleport. But the problem is, Prismal has 22 CS still, right? This guy is super giga poor at this point, but we're also seeing the other potential point of theory come through. When you are going up against these kind of compositions, you park your AD carry in the solo lane, because the whole point of playing AD carry plus support, Mark, is you need to play somebody to babysit the AD carry, but if there's nobody that's going to be contesting them, you can just leave them alone up in the top lane where they're going to be free farming, and you can actually win the 2v2 with your bruiser.
And the wave was in a spot where Prismal didn't necessarily feel safe staying up there by himself. Had to wait for Breezy to be in range before they could commit to fully crashing the wave in and getting it to reset, as it was frozen a little up front. But because TSM will still have Instinct on the bottom side of the map and Viper's committing towards this bottom lane play, TSM are trying to accelerate and get as many turret plates for Instinct. But because Prismal is here unanswered by anyone from TSM, Prismal will be able to find a little bit of experience back into the game.
Yep, and Viper here with the Smite, there's no way for Dokla to take that away from him. And so CLG, notice what they're doing. They're parking Prismal up in the top lane so he can recoup a lot of the missed gold and experience from before. And also so that he can slowly take some plates on his own. So the gold and experience lead that Instinct was having over Prismal is no longer going to be building in the same way that it was previously, unless TSM can start diving Dokla as well.
They managed to get one more plate, but not quite yet. TSM sending 4 members now to push Dokla off the turret. He hasn't been able to finish his first item yet, but he still has built up a sizable amount of gold. And CLG, I don't know how many times they have scrimmed with a Smite support, as it does not strike me as the type of champion that Dokla would be willing to play, or how many times they scrimmed against this strategy. But you know, CLG, I think they're doing a decent enough job of trying to fight back against it, because Prismal no longer disastrously far behind in terms of the gold and experience. He's only one level down. It's still first brick that has been netted by TSM, but a Rift Herald was secured for CLG, so they can still find ways to get more plate gold for some of these members.
Yeah, look at Shen Yi coming around the side, definitely in vision, so Prismal should be able to walk his way out. Yeah, not end up movement speed coming out from Shen Yi, so that does mean that the gold lead that we typically look at CLG having is on the wrong side.
Oh, Triple thought he would have enough damage, but Viper keeps him alive. Rosethorn might be able to survive.
Oh, the reset!
No, the takeover, the reset for the Spirit Rush, and a flash away allows him to escape with his life.
Yeah, CLG trying a bit too hard to make something happen at the same time. Triple ends up going down, and Rosethorn, he's not ahead in CS, right? And that should be the expectation. You don't expect your jungler to be ahead in these spots, but as the game continues to go forward, CLG trying to move around. It's a very finesse-focused game, and that's something that CLG is not always known for. It's not necessarily finesse. They kind of hit things with a hammer most of the time, and it usually works. It's a very large hammer.
Would you say, are they dripping in finesse?
We could say that. Would you like to say that?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Then we will
It's
say
a good
that.
song. Thank you.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
well, Rift Herald will spawn from CLG. Allows them to pick up another 3 plates to their name. Dokla forced to use Dominus because he sees 4 members of TSM getting ready to dive this angry crocodile. They'll be able to soak up most of the minion wave, and now they are forced to press the dive forward. And TSM don't drop a single member, but this Rift Herald gets another crash, and Prismal might be able to get a lot of gold back during this time.
Yeah, if they get this second tier turret, that's going to be quite a bit of money going through, but they do need to protect him. Takeover showing in the bottom lane now. Where do they choose to attack? Do they go mid lane, or they just try and help Prismal?
And it looks like Takeover should do enough of a job to save the turret barely. Prismal wants to step up for it. Meanwhile, TSM are just dedicated to trying to trade as much turret plates back and forth. It's been just an overwhelming trade between both of these teams, making sure that their AD carry remains the one that is accelerated over the other.
Yeah. Now, I'm really curious which of these, which of the people that we were talking about previously is the one that suggested they actually play this way? Is it Peter John, the coach who came down and was choosing to help him out? Or is this a Shen Yi? Oh, he's going for a takeover. I don't think they get him.
Takeover should have Spirit Rush available. Breezy gets 3 stacks into the Devour. Spirit Rush away. Takeover should be able to make his way out. Super Mega Death Rocket is available, but Shen Yi tactfully standing in front of him to make sure that if Super Mega Death Rocket did come through, he would not go down.
Yeah, I don't know where the traps were for that. Like, that's the kind of play where you just need to spit Ahri down onto the clap traps, and then the play becomes relatively easy. But it didn't look like Prismal had enough mana to actually make that happen. So, as you kind of take stock of where all the gold is located and who has what items, you'll notice that the gold lead for Instinct over Prismal is staying about the same as it was previously, right? He's got about 30 CS, but with all the plates that have gone back and forth, it ends up being a situation where Prismal is not as far behind as we were initially expecting, down about 1,600 based on a lot of the early game plays, and a couple of dives working out in favor of TSM. But Prismal is not as far behind, again, as I was expecting him to be at this point. A bit of a testament to his ability to stand up to all the pressure TSM.
Yeah, it's still a significant amount of gold, but with the way things were panning out, we expected this to be at least a 25, maybe 3,000 gold lead for Instinct, just because Prismal was not being allowed to play the game for the most part. But CLG have done a decent job to fight back, and, you know, overall, while that advantage has been netted for TSM in Instinct's pockets, you see at the overall gold lead, it's still only, it's really that, it's not even 1,000, it's less than 1,000.
Yeah, but as this turret goes down, it will get over 1,000, and then as the bottom lane second tier turret, my math, my way. But watch how it changes once again once Prismal actually collapses this wave and takes down the bottom lane turret. If it's not matched in the top side, it will be back to basically even. But Dokla is just kind of like, well, what do I do?
This is, I don't think I've ever seen this many turrets destroyed before 14 minutes. This is such a weird game.
It is. This is how this game is played. Do you remember lane swaps?
Yes,
I don't
that's
think
exactly what I was thinking of. This feels like lane swaps all over again.
I don't think either of us were casting when that was the meta, right? Or at least we weren't casting any good games.
Oh, no. I mean, lane swaps was like during Season 4. So we were, at least I was just starting to play the game.
Oh, yeah. See, I started playing in Season 2. I remember a couple. Like, I used to do University of Washington. I used to cast for them a fair amount. And I remember in our tournaments, like, some teams would try and make these strategies work with the lane swaps. Unfortunately, most people, when they did it, hadn't, like, really put the effort into understanding why the strategy worked that way and what you were actually trying to do. And because they were all from pickup tournaments, like, the teams weren't super coordinated.
Right.
So I casted a couple of lane swaps, but this is definitely the most coordinated style of lane swaps we've been seeing come through. And the question is, TSM, right, they got through the early game, which we said was going to be an issue for them. Now, they are going into the mid game. They hit the 15-minute mark with a gold lead, which is very uncommon against CLG for any team to actually accomplish. But CLG, as Kings was talking about and Cubby was mentioning, CLG are very good at flipping for objectives. And if they feel like they are in a reasonable position of strength, then CLG will just go for the next dragon, fight it to the death, and have a better than even chance of actually coming out on top because of how coordinated and how strong their individual players are.
And just the way that this game is played out, it is completely prevented CLG from playing the way they normally play. Normally, when Dokla gets his hands on Renekton, he has either bullied out the lane opponent or at least killed them 2 or 3 times. But he hasn't really been able to find any advantages through the laning phase because they just dodged him out. They ghosted him pretty much.
Unbelievable. You should at least have the confidence to tell us, like, hey, I'm sorry, I just don't want to see you anymore. But Viper, very happy to just build Shirelles and run away from all his problems. And Triple, potentially finding Hyper here.
Doesn't steal away the Baron or the Grom, but might just steal away his life. Crescent Guard prevents the last bit of damage coming out, but there is no way out for Hyper. A little bit in no man's land without anyone really to support him in that one.
Yeah, sorry. I had to sneeze, but that is coming at a great time for CLG, right? Because the dragon spawning relatively soon. Hyper will have just respawned when that actually comes through. And Takeover caught by a trap.
Super Mega Death Rocket, Abyssal Dive almost catches Takeover by surprise. But if the Spirit Rush was forced out of this Ahri, and now TSM have one less tool that they can use to fight for this dragon.
Yeah, that's a kill and an ultimate that was picked up by CLG right before the dragon. And as you said, right, it becomes super easy for them to actually take this. Do TSM actually want to try and flip this? I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to do that, especially considering Triple is hitting the top lane turret. And CLG just showing a lot of resiliency and a lot of coordination in a very unfamiliar environment. I'm actually curious, and maybe we can find out if they are able to win their second game, like how much experience they have scrimming against this style of gameplay.
And that's what I was wondering too, because the way that CLG responded, it didn't take them long for them to have a decisive game plan to figure out, okay, how do we answer back on this? Like, Prismal did suffer not only losing out both summoners at level 1, but also getting dove under the tower, but Dokla not only had a great response on the bottom side of the map, and they were able to give Prismal a lot of solo time on the opposite end of the turret here. A Triple looking for some poke, almost taking out Shen Yi's life. Doesn't force out a summoner spell, but Shen Yi definitely going to have to recall.
A lot of damage being done, right? Triple. One of the things about lane swaps in both like the modern version and the version from years ago is that the mid laners tend to be absurdly strong, right? They tend to be really high level, as we currently see. The only person who's matching Triple and Takeover is Dokla. They tend to have a lot of farm because they're mostly left alone, and you see that both of them, the top 2 farmers in the game. And so they tend to just be able to pop a lot of people, and that's why like assassins like Ahri and LeBlanc are very popular in these kind of games, because you have a ton of agency because of how strong you really are. And we're going to be seeing which one of these really strong players is going to be able to find enough pressure to actually win the game for their team.
Damn, I just realized, Josh, that you bringing that up, Renekton, Jarvan, and LeBlanc, that really takes us back to Season 4 already. a lot of
True.
Yeah, a lot of
Speaking of,
common champions. Prismal gets hit by the Moonlight Vigil, loses 3/4 of his HP, but does not go down. We'll have a chance to recall, but this next minion wave might be enough for TSM to guarantee this turret take in the mid lane. Takeover was answering split push pressure from Triple, but Dokla is about to be on the footsteps of the base.
yeah, I also want to point out that 4 members are likely to hit 200 CS before the 20-minute mark, right? We already have both mid laners have done it. Dokla is really close. Instinct is 10 CS away, and it really just shows like how much gold gets funneled into the game really quickly. Now Dokla doesn't realize that he is spotted out by Shen Yi. Now he has seemed to have figured it out, but I'm expecting the game to kind of break one way or another in about 2 minutes when the next dragon spawns, because mountain dragons are the most important dragon of the game, right? They give you the most effective stats, the most effective gold, and they are multiplicative in a way that every single champion is going to be able to feel the effect of surviving a little while longer. And if you give over 3 of those to CLG, if you even give over 2 of them, it makes it incredibly difficult for Instinct to do his job.
It would put a huge dent in TSM's plan since they focus so much efforts into funneling gold before Instinct from minute 1.
Rosethorn.
They might have routed him off. Rosethorn still has Swag Flag to get on over, out of danger. But TSM will brute force their way through this jungle quadrant and get a lot of vision control down. It's not going to be enough to start Baron anytime soon, because they still have to deal with this Crocodile who is trying to crack open the base.
Yeah, this is an inhibitor turret that is probably going to go down to Dokla here. Viper is trying to stop him.
Oh, the minions. Minions are the MVP for CLG, acting as the 6th man. The inhibitor turret falls, and now it's exposed.
It's fast, it's fun, it's Dominions.
I miss Dominion.
You're welcome. Me too. Anyway, Prismal pushing up. Has recovered. He is now down only about 10 CS, but he needs to be careful. Viper runs at him very quickly.
Hey, yo. Breezy doesn't want to have to use a Devour. Prismal just using the Gale Force. No flash or heal necessary. However, the flash from Shen Yi still catches him up. And Prismal couldn't run the same way as Breezy, so no way to be saved by the Devour, as it was still off cooldown, I just realized as well. So now, CLG, they're forcing their hand of TSM. TSM want to go for the Baron, but CLG might look for the split push, but they can't push it fast enough with LeBlanc in that area. They're looking for the collapse. 5 against 4. Rosethorn on the opposite side of the flank. I don't think he's been spotted quite yet. Viper getting chunked out. Dokla going for the assassination. They turn right onto the big Crocodile. They take him down. The Baron gets reset, but CLG are still down 2 members of 5. Abyssal dive from Breezy allows them to get out alive, and the rest of TSM will now turn tail towards the Dragon instead.
Well, with Dokla down, that should be a Dragon going through, but what does it get traded for? Notice that Triple and Rosethorn still on the top side of the map. Can try and pressure this, and let's be real, Viper cannot defend this by himself, so Takeover is going to be the reinforcements that TSM need in order to hold this top lane inhibitor turret. But the game has not broken yet, right? We're still right on back to even. But look at the way that Takeover is currently building up. He's got the most CS in the game, 101, has the Shadow Flame completed. And the thing is, he's really hard for CLG to actually lock down. They don't have a lot of point-and-click crowd control at range. Dokla's not always going to have an opportunity to jump onto the Ahri. And as the game continues to go on, this LeBlanc is going to get scarier and scarier as they just do stuff like that.
Viper thinking his lucky stars that trip. Oh, Super Mega Death Rocket, but nice presence of mind from Shen Yi, body blocking the shot, making sure the Viper gets out alive.
Yeah, blocked. So, that was literally funny only to me. That was something my brother said, and he was like 5.
Is it like a Itachi Sasuke moment for you two?
No, it was more like, you know, I am rubber, you are glue.
Oh.
But he would just put up a hand and just go, blocked. He was like 5. He's like, that's not how that works. That's not a comeback. That's not witty. And you just do it anyway. It's like, blocked.
Yeah. That's just something that brothers do. And you can really piss them off by just saying the stupidest things, and they know that it gets on your nerves. But right now,
Yep. Oh, Dokla.
Dokla, he's got to get out of this one. Otherwise, he's going to be in a world of hurt. Flashing away, but the charm still connects. Magnet Storm from Shen Yi locks down this Crocodile once again. Dominus is Not going to be enough to save himself, but Breezy looking for a dive onto Instinct. It's just enough for Prismal to take down the turret, but they have to back away because Instinct was starting to put out a ton of damage, and now they have to be on the run. Breezy doesn't have flash. Can this be the turning point for TSM to lock down this catfish? Toad catfish thing, whatever this guy is. He's a catfish, right?
Oh yeah, the Baron's still up. Okay, so TSM going right on back to it. This is very similar to what we just saw because they did not take it the first time, but Dokla is not around. If CLG can delay them by a couple of seconds, there will be an opportunity for Dokla to come in and try and contest, but Rosethorn is here. Can he win this fight?
2k HP, 16 HP, but Rosethorn can't get there in time. He was routed out by the stun from TSM, and he flashes on out. Not going to be enough to save him. TSM potentially with the most unlikely victory with a strategy that has really thrown CLG for a loop.
Oh, Super Mega Death Rocket not going to be connecting there either. So CLG, they need to try and find something because this composition coming out from TSM, the thing is double or enchanter compositions just make your backline so incredibly safe later on in the game. And CLG, they just need to find opportunities for picks. There aren't enough objectives left on the map for them to try and pick up. The one thing that is going to be going in favor of CLG is just as we talked about earlier, if you end up finding a definitive teamfight win, that ends up winning the game. But as we see from this, Rosethorn just a little bit too far, not able to get into the pit in time. Tries to save the rest of his team with a Cataclysm, and to his credit, they only lose one member. But TSM now with the Death Ball composition of all Death Balls, so he's going to be looking to group up and force fights by running at you with great speed.
And it's not like CLG are super far behind. It's only a less than a 2,000 gold lead, but because so much gold has been funneled into Instinct, and you already pointed out before, it's a double support setup for TSM that can keep Instinct alive. He even has the extra safety with the Maw of Mount Mortius completed, so not even Triple can just blast him from a flank angle. He's still going to try, but I'm sure he'll find that without a Void Staff, he's not going to have enough penetration to cut through all the resistances that TSM have, and they take this inhibitor with ease.
Going to be rather easy for them to move around, and Rosethorn trying to spot them out. I was worried he was going to try and go in. I like the fact that Triple going ahead to try and cut the wave initially, but he's getting run at.
He just used both Cats of Distortion, but TSM not enough movement speed despite them seeing the same play that we all had a vision for. Triple, you are playing with fire, dude.
I mean, yeah, Astu, this situation is not great for the members of CLG. They need to try and find something a little bit cheeky, and they're not moving together in a unit. They don't feel like they are strong enough to actually defend any of these structures, and eventually they will have to fight for something. They've already given up one inhibitor. They don't want to be giving up a second.
Yeah, they gave time for Prismal to farm up on the top side of the map. I think he's very close to Lord Dominic's regards being completed. There he has it.
Yep.
This inhibitor turret successfully stalled out by CLG. Doesn't fall quite yet. They're still defending this empowered Baron cannon minion to wail away, trying to take it down. Cataclysm for Rosethorn, super aggressive, but Shenyi has an aggressive mind of his own with the Flash Magnet Storm. Moonlight Vigil comes out, not enough damage to take down multiple members of CLG. They're still alive, well and dandy. Rosethorn trying to make it and last as long as possible. Hyper goes back in, but gets blown up by Super Mega Death Rocket, but TSM still find the inhibitor on the back end, and while multiple members of CLG are still alive, Instinct flashing forward, almost finds Prismal in the solo. CLG are going to heal back up to full off the Nexus Fountain, but TSM, they're trying to end the game. They only find one Nexus turret, but they have left the base in ruins.
TSM coming out with a big win off of that. They end up finding two inhibitors with this Baron, and now as they back away, the Dragon is available. CLG, I wonder if they try and even contest this. They have teleports from both Triple and Doko, but they don't really have anywhere to teleport to. They're not going to get there in time.
The Maw of Mount Mortius shield wasn't even popped by Instinct as well, so Triple still would have a tough time trying to deal with this very, very powerful marksman in TSM. Third Dragon acquired. They are at Soul Point.
And they are so close to actually taking down CLG, the #1 team in Academy, by playing something super, super unorthodox. CLG, where it felt like they were ready for the most part, but a couple of small mistakes, a couple of small spots where you are just not fast enough to escape leads them into a pretty desperate position here. And CLG, you're noticing Dokla trying to pick up Aranduins as well, and Rosethorn already going for the Guardian Angel because they need power now. They cannot afford to let this game go longer and longer because, again, double supports make this composition scale so well, and they were dodging out on a lot of individual plays necessary from the members of TSM. They're deciding that this is a game that's going to be based off of shot calling and shot calling alone, and Shen Yi seems to be the best person on the map for that.
A little bit of a death brush setup from CLG, waiting for a squishy member to approach. Triple, I don't know if these are the members that you're looking for, Triple. They're not squishy enough for you to take down.
Not the droids.
They're definitely not droids. Now, Viper. Oh. Those are the sounds I make when I get really nervous about someone's well-being. You know.
Are those raw eggs?
What?
When Kangas drank his shake?
Yeah. That was a good moment.
Are you gonna drink that?
Well,
okay. CLG, they need to try and find something here. We saw Rosethorn go for a Cataclysm last time. There it is.
Cataclysm locking down Instinct, but no one can threaten him from CLG. In fact, the GA gets popped by Rosethorn. TSM are on the aggressive. Rosethorn, one last flag and drag. It's all in vain, and still CLG still cannot find anyone. But just as I say that, Shen Yi gets popped. That's the primary engage down from TSM, but they have unlocked every single inhibitor, and this last minion wave could be enough to take down one Nexus turret. Do TSM want to press their luck here? They're going to go for it. Super Mega Death Rocket not available from Prismal anymore. Trying to fire out these rockets, but the Crescent Guard doing so much work, giving him so much protection and safety. TSM, they have done it! Holy kaboli, they actually took down CLG!
TSM winning the first half of the series, man. Nobody was expecting this. We set everything up as CLG being these massive favorites come in, and TSM able to take them down by putting them outside of their comfort zone. And the thing is, Mark, the thing that I'm excited about is it is not possible to ban out Enchanter's top. There is not a way to do it. There are too many Enchanters that are playable. You have Janna, you have Bard, you have Karma, you have Zillion, you have Yuumi. Right, all of these champions can do this kind of playstyle, and that is already 5 champions that you can't ban and you can't pick away on the blue side. So suddenly, CLG have to figure out how to play against this on a TSM that is now resurging after picking up a win against 100 Thieves, and now 1-0 going up against CLG.
Well, you already talked about it before. The answer typically is a dedicated split pusher, but because CLG were on the blue side, they didn't get a chance to anticipate that the support top was going to come out. And Renekton, unfortunately, while it has been as historically Dokla's best champion in Academy so far, it's not the best equipped for taking down turrets. So now that CLG understand and are anticipating TSM to pull out this strategy potentially again, no matter what happens in the pick and ban phase, I imagine that Dokla will have a better answer into it that can actually threaten TSM's base the next time they go up against it. But we'll be finding out what happens with the second game when we return after this break, because Kangas, we got our halftime show once again, so make sure you stick around.
Well, howdy, y'all, and welcome to another episode of On the Range, where we got some rambunctious critters out there in the Academy wilds that need some wrestling. Let's go ahead and get to it, shall we? Now we're in the top lane here. We got Big Dokes on the Crocodilian this time, and he's looking hungry as he's going in for his own solo bolo. But now we're going back to the mid lane, and we got Triple in his own solo bolo. Come hell or high water, CLG gonna take it all. Sheriff Tomo's got some hooligans to wrestle here, but luckily he's got Deputy Yuji going at him. The sniper's gonna go ahead and take his shots, and Yuji's there to lock him down. Yeah! Woohoo! Takeover's looking pretty hungry tonight, and Pretty ain't looking bigger than a minnow either. Takeover's gobbling him up easy, and he's gonna make it out alive. Boy, howdy! All right, now we're in the bot lane, and the 100 Thieves are looking pretty spicy, but whoa, they're switching sides on us, but they're still going because they're the Tom Kench and the Santa, and Santa's looking strong, but Wixie, he can't be stopped. They can't kill him. Oh, the law thinks they done found old outlaw Jimmy, but Jimmy is a little slippery son of a gun, and he's gonna make it out too. He's still walking away from the sheriffs, and the sheriffs ain't got no law in this town. Whoa, he's gonna make it out, but he's an outlaw, and you know outlaws, they always come in packs. The whole team is coming, and they ain't taking no prisoners from these sheriffs. The sheriffs still can't find nothing. They ain't putting nobody away, and the thieves gonna make it out with a heist. Woo! We got some spicy ones out there in the Academy Wilds, but we got them all wrangled and all put away in their pastures this week. But they'll be there next week on the next episode of On the Range.